Good morning, everybody, and I guess Merry Christmas. It's 3 days after Christmas. Our program is called What's Going On Here. My name is Bob Venn, and today we have pleasure of having Sam Castine with the camera. Calvin's off doing something else, and our focus today is back on the VFW Auxiliary today. And our special guest today is Margaret Peg Belrose Bergeron. Good morning, Peg. How do you like that for a title?
Fine. How are you?
Peg is home from Kansas City area, anyway, for Christmas. And Peg's been very much in the news. And we want to talk with Peg a little bit about her family, her background, and then she holds one of the very most important posts today in the VFW Auxiliary in the nation. She has a national office. She's the Secretary-Treasurer of the post. Has moved up the ladder and is doing very, very well. Peg, tell us a little bit about Peg Bergeron. Tell us about your mom, dad, your family.
Oh, God.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Oh, yeah, well, that's true. That could take a whole day right there, just have our own program on the family. And as you know, when we all get together, it's there's quite a crowd there.
I heard there were 36 the other day at my daughter's.
That's right. And I don't think that counted the cats and dogs either.
Oh, no.
But all the grandkids, and we get together over at my brother Danny's, of course, which is Bob's son-in-law.
My son-in-law, yeah.
And every year we do this at Christmas time, so my mom was there, and she's enjoying her retirement. And
let's talk about who's your mom and dad.
Well, my mom is Agnes Belrose. My dad, Moses, of course, is gone now. And then I have 7 brothers and 2 sisters. My sister Linda lives in Colorado Springs. She's been there for almost 30 years now. It's hard to believe. And I went to spend Thanksgiving rather with her this year. She said I hadn't been there since 1976, so she figured I should come at least every 20 years.
20 years.
So
Right.
I decided to go and had a very nice time spending my time with her. And of course, they have a Champlain connection too. She's married to Don Gooley, Claude's son.
Claude's son.
And the rest of them, I have my brothers. Some of them are correction officers, and of course Dan works for the brokers. And Mike and David work for the other brokers. So it's everybody's here in the area except for me and Linda.
You and Linda.
Yeah.
Now, your mom, you say she's retired. Retired from what?
Well, she was working up at Customs.
Sure was.
Yeah, and she for years before that, a lot of people knew her from the Anchorage. She used to be a waitress at the Anchorage.
Yep, she was GSA at the Customs House in Champlain, General Services Administration, and she retired after I did, and she's enjoying her time.
Yes,
That's great.
yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
She's been out to see you?
Oh, yes. Yeah, she usually comes back with me. This is the first year when I moved out there. She drove out with me, spend a month, and I think she just wanted to make sure I wasn't going to get murdered in that big city or something.
Well, a little daughter, moves
right.
out. You got to.
She still worries about me. And then last year, when I came home for Christmas, she flew back with me and stayed for a month. And in between there, she took a week and flew out to see Linda in Colorado. But this year, she's coming a little bit later. She's going to come in March because we're going off to Hawaii for a week.
Well, how nice.
Yeah, the Ladies Auxiliary Midwinter Conference is in Honolulu this year. And Mom's always wanted to go to Hawaii, so she's a member.
Well,
Here
she's
we go.
not about to let you go that far alone
No,
either.
I
She's
guess
worried
not.
about you there.
That's right. There are probably sharks in that water. Or something.
You went to school in Champlain, St. Mary's?
Oh, yes. Yep. 12 years at St. Mary's.
Your first idea of leadership was very apparent even in high school, Peg. You were a good speaker. You showed your leadership there, and it's continued over the years. You had good training at St. Mary's.
Oh, absolutely. Well, people who knew me in high school and people who know me today, I think would probably have a hard time believing it's the same person. And that's because the nuns, when I was a freshman, forced me into this forensics league, and I just was kicking and screaming the whole way. But I tell you, it's really, as far as my business career and my auxiliary career, and my own personal development, I think that public speaking training was probably the best thing I ever did in my life, and I recommended it to my daughters, who both took public speaking when they were in school.
2 daughters?
Yep, 2 daughters.
Who are they?
Denise and Michelle.
Okay.
You know, Denise is married to Tim Hunt. They live in Plattsburgh, and they have one little daughter, Allison Marie. She's my pride and joy. I've been babysitting her the whole week since I've been here. Oh, she is just gorgeous. She's the smartest and the cutest and the best behaved.
In the whole
child.
world?
Yeah, yes, I think so. And then my other daughter, Mimi, she still lives down in New Rochelle. She's did her bachelor's and her master's there, and she's now a PhD candidate at John Jay University in the city. She works full-time at Ross University.
Doing what?
She wants to work with the FBI on serial killers.
Oh-ho, wow.
She did her master's thesis on serial killers, and she's very interested in that, and she figures somebody's got to catch them, so she thinks it should be her.
Okay. All right, there came a time when you got out of school. You went on to college?
I went to school in Boston, a business college, and worked part-time while I was down there at the college. And I had a couple of offers to stay there, but I kind of wanted to come back home. You know, there's something about Champlain and the family. Family's always been very important to me, and so I decided I wanted to come back home. And I pretty much spent the early part of my business career either in Champlain, Rouse's Point. I worked at Ayerst back then, and I worked for Larry Paquette for a while. And then I moved to Plattsburgh in the 70s, early 70s, and went to work for a TANA company, and I worked for the Department of Labor for a little bit.
TANA was a branch out of Montreal,
yes,
right? Canadian
yes,
company.
I was the general manager of their warehouse here. It was a distribution warehouse. And from there, I moved over to Schonbeck, the crystal chandelier factory. And I was there for 13 years, I think, and then went to B&I.
What's B&I?
B&I was an office furniture manufacturer. They made those partitions.
Partition in the office, yes.
Right. And then I got a call from Kansas City one evening, and they said, you know, we need you here, and would you consider moving?
Oh, well, wait a minute. You got to know why you're eligible there. We'll take a short break. Some other important news we want you to hear. We'll come back. We're talking with... what's your real name? Is it Margaret?
Well, no one calls me
Middle
that
name
unless
is what?
they're upset.
Alice or
Mary.
Mary. Okay.
Yes.
Margaret Mary Belrose Bergeron, and we're going to be right back. Thanks for tuning in, and please stay tuned. Okay, Peg. Now there came a time before they called you from Kansas City and they needed you. And you had to build up to that. Now, somewhere along the line, you decided that the VFW Auxiliary was something you wanted to be active in. And when you're active in something, you work
really
hard.
Active.
I know you are. I know that very much so. So how did you get involved with the VFW Auxiliary?
Well, it was 1971, and my daughter Mimi was only a few months old, about 6 months old, I guess. And the VFW formed a post in Chazy at that time. My husband joined as a charter member, and I went to the institution ceremony. That was my first mistake.
Yeah.
Because Clyde Lewis was there, and I didn't know him from Adam, but he was kind of looking over the crowd there, and you know, he came over and introduced himself, and by the end of the afternoon he said, well, I think you should help form a ladies' auxiliary. Well, I had no idea what they did or why they did it, but I figured, you know, well, if my husband's going to belong, then I'll probably want to go to these functions too, so I decided I may as well. Well, when I got my hands on the material and found out everything that they do, I really felt that it was something worthwhile. And I do seriously believe that, you know, veterans are ordinary citizens, but they're pretty special ordinary citizens. They have earned our respect and our gratitude, and I felt that I wanted to do something to make sure that they were taken care of.
All right, couple of things. You mentioned your husband. So you were married to...
I was married to Al Bergeron.
Al Bergeron, and that marriage is no longer. Now, was he in the service that made you eligible? You weren't in the service.
No,
so
no.
Did that make you eligible?
Well, see, the Ladies Auxiliary is comprised of mothers and wives and daughters and sisters and granddaughters of veterans who saw combat on foreign soil.
Okay.
And my husband was in Cuba
Okay.
during the missile crisis in '62.
So that made you eligible.
Right. Mhm.
Okay. 1971.
Yeah.
So what did you do at that? What did you do? You said, I'm going to get into this,
Well,
and you helped form it?
I spent about 3 weeks on the phone calling everyone, and everything happens for a reason. I firmly believe that. And they were Clyde and Doc St. Jacques, who is gone now. They were trying to form a lot of posts and auxiliaries in the area because the national president and the national commander-in-chief had been invited to Plattsburgh for a big banquet, make an official visit. So they wanted to get all, so they hurried up and formed us and instituted us, and I mean, it was just whiz-bang, it was over almost before I knew it. And so a week later, I went to this big banquet in Plattsburgh. There were about 600 people there, all dressed up, and this was a big affair. And it was at... it used to be the Teamster Hall. I think it burned down now.
Yes, North
but
Beekman.
it was there, right. And there, Clyde Lewis said to me, well, come along, we're going to meet the national president. I said, I don't think so. I've only been in the auxiliary for 1 week, and he wants me to meet the national president. But he is pretty convincing, so he took me over there and introduced me. And she just took one look at me, and she said, I think she kind of spotted, that I was young and I could do a lot of work and all this stuff. But this lady, Mary Catone, ended up becoming my mentor. She brought me along, and I every time I go to a state meeting, I would see her there, and she'd come along and she'd tell me, well, you should do this and you should do this and you should do this. So that's how I ended up becoming a council president, and then a district president, and then a department president, the state president.
Okay, go back here. You mentioned Clyde Lewis. Now, Clyde Lewis was very, very active in the VFW.
Oh, yes. He was a commander-in-chief in
Of
the
the
50s.
country?
Yes.
National
National
yes.
commander-in-chief.
That's back in the 1950s,
Right.
I think.
I think 1953,
Yep.
I think, was the year he was commander.
Yep.
Yeah, and he has done so much for the VFW. People in the area who know him respect him, and of course they know him as a liaison to the air base. But I don't think they really understand what an influential person Clyde Lewis is. He is
Across the
very
country.
highly
Yes.
respected throughout the country.
He's an attorney, of course, for people who don't know him, from Plattsburgh, and was instrumental in bringing the Air Force here way back in 1946 to Plattsburgh.
Right.
He was he's always been considered the father of the air base in Plattsburgh.
Yeah. And he's, he, through that connection, of course, would hobnob with the Secretary of the Air Force and all these generals and everything. And then through the VFW is, of course, very highly respected. As I say, every year at the National Convention, people look up to him. And
Okay, now there came a time then that was that here now? You say Shazy, but was it here?
well,
It moved here?
yes, it moved to Champlain, right.
Built a home here.
Right.
And they're in their 25th anniversary this
Right.
past spring.
Yeah.
So you became a member, and how many people did you have?
Well, you have to have 25 signed up in the beginning, and no, 15, I'm sorry. We had 25 on the original application, and then 15 actually joined us. And we stayed very small for a long, long time. And I can remember we used to have our meetings at the Champlain Library. Mrs. Dresser and the ladies there were very good to us, and we'd have our meetings there every month. And, oh my goodness, then I think you attract more people when you get a post home, because people, they have a place to go,
Yes,
and it's
yes.
their own place, and they can take pride in it. So they bought this club, which was a barn, basically, and I thought, oh, dear heavens, what are they going to do with this place? But today, it's a beautiful club, and
Beautiful,
they were a very responsible group. They did everything as they could pay for it, so they never had any huge long-term debt.
Right. Now, there is a 25th anniversary folder here. It was on April 20th. The commander, Jeffrey Addison, and Betty Fist, the president of the auxiliary. And the very first past president, it says here, was Margaret Peg Bergeron.
That's right. I was the charter president.
1971, 72, 72, 73.
2-year term. And my membership is still here, even though I live in
It still
Kansas
is here?
City. Yes, I would never
Okay.
transfer my
So
membership.
you stayed here even when you were in Plattsburgh, when you moved to Plattsburgh,
Come every month, and for all the cookie sales and whatever else we did,
right?
you know.
Now, there's a Blanche Bergeron. Who was Blanche? Was that?
That's my mother-in-law.
That was your mother-in-law. Okay, now, she was 3 years. Then you were also here 93, 94, 94, 95, huh?
Yes.
So there came a time that you got involved beyond here into a district. Now, what is a district? What is that?
Well, the county council is a small geographical area. Our county council comprises from Champlain out to Mineville, and there are 6 auxiliaries in there. And then the district, of course, is a larger geographical area, and that runs from here to Utica. And
So you got active in the county, and then
the district,
the district.
and then the state.
Uh-huh.
And then after I was out as department president, I started getting calls from national, and I was a
No,
director.
department is where's that?
That's the state.
Okay,
It's
yeah,
the
now
state
let's
of
get,
New York.
oh, you
Right.
skipping right straight through
Yeah.
that. So you became, when were you state president?
1986, 86, 87.
I remember reading that in the paper. Of course, I'd see you once in a while, not often, and right away I'd say, oh, that's somebody that I know. And I said, wow, how proud Champlain should be, and as well as the family and all of us who know her, but the whole area should be very proud that a little beginning here in Little Champlain, ahead of the state auxiliary. And there you even became, of course, you'd already met the commander of the
Oh, yeah.
auxiliary the first week you were involved.
Right.
But you meet her regularly and other
yes.
people.
Right.
And you became known in the national as being a
I guess.
person on the way up, huh?
Mover and a shaker, I guess. I don't know.
Okay, so what do you do as the state president?
Well, the state president, you visit all of the 14 VA facilities in our state. And now, I guess, well, back then there was 1 veterans home. I think we're up to about 5 now. And so you make official visits there, visit the patients, make sure that they're being well taken care of, and of course direct all the activities of New York State has about 28,000 members.
That wasn't a paid job, was it?
Oh, no.
No, so that's where you were still living here and doing your
Right,
regular job, but you made a lot of
That's
trips.
right. Oh, yes,
And
every
the
weekend.
expenses paid, but you didn't get paid as
Yeah.
a salary.
Oh, no, 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 no.
Okay.
None of this has ever been paid until now.
Till now.
Yeah.
And boy, are you making it now.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Now I have to travel more too, and you know, I travel all over the country and I do all kinds of exciting, interesting things.
Heck of a time to travel when you got a granddaughter.
Oh, I
The best
know.
in the whole world.
I know.
Huh?
Well, every time I come east, you know, I kind of come a little northeast.
Yes. All right, Peg, one of the, for about a month ago, 2 months ago, I read in the Plattsburgh paper, I go through the little things of interest of local, and I saw where Margaret Peg Bergeron had been elected. You were elected either treasurer or secretary. Which?
I was elected treasurer.
Treasurer.
Right.
And with that, you get the added responsibilities of secretary.
Right.
Because there is no official elected secretary.
No,
Is that
it's an
the-
appointed
It's
secretary.
appointed, and that, so you became both. And then she's in Kansas City. First of all, you had gone to Kansas City as an employee? Tell us about that.
Well, they called me and said they needed an assistant director of accounting. And so out I went and did that for about 1.5 years. And then it was basically, as it turns out, a grooming for this position as treasurer.
They
because I
probably
got
knew
to-
that at the time.
Well, you know, the powers that be may have known.
Oh, yes.
And it has been a wonderful experience for me because I learned to interact with the staff first and learned about all the jobs that they do. So now, in my position, if I need something done, I know who's going to do it and I know exactly how they're doing it. So if something needs a little tinkering, then I already know what needs to be fixed.
Just think how nice it is if you're here working and you've met people and they call you from Kansas City and said, we have a job opening here. Now, this is not an office, it's a job. And you've got a job here. And they said, but we'd like to have you work for us. And you kind of think about it and you say, wow, that's nice. We'll take another very short break and be right back. You're watching Hometown Cable. What's going on here is the name of our program, and we do different things. And today we're very fortunate to have a national officer of the Veterans of Foreign Wars Auxiliary, but even more than that, a neighbor, a friend, and a local parishioner right here at St. Mary's. Okay, Peg, you got into Kansas City, director, you said, or
Well,
assistant director?
Assistant Director of Accounting.
Accounting. And how many people work in the, that's the central headquarters for the VFW and the auxiliary. How many people in the building there? How many people employed?
Well, it's a 12-story building.
It is that big?
Yeah.
The picture's in the book or
yeah,
not?
I don't know if it's in the book. But
Okay.
it's a 12-story building. The VFW has the top 2 floors, 11 and 12, and the ladies auxiliary has all of 10. And then the VFW is down on other floors too, and there are some tenants in there. Now, ladies auxiliary has about 25 employees. And the VFW, well, they have a couple hundred.
They do. Is there much interaction there between the VFW and the auxiliary, where you have joint things that you do together?
Oh, yes, definitely, right.
So the bookkeeping that you do and that you had was strictly for the auxiliary. There wasn't anything to do with the VFW
Right,
directly.
that's right,
Okay.
yeah. And we really don't do any, like with the finances, of course, we really don't do anything with, but we work together on projects. For example, this year, the National President's Special Project is Operation Uplink. And that is something that we work with on the VFW. And those are prepaid telephone cards that are sent to the troops, active duty troops in Bosnia or, wherever, Zaire, wherever they might be, so that they can call their family. Those are global cards. And then we have domestic cards that we give out to patients in the VA hospital, and so that they can call their families, because they're away from home too.
The October issue of the VFW Auxiliary, my daughter happened to show this to me the other night, and right here is Peg. Oops, excuse me, right here. And is the president here also?
Yes, and this is the national president.
National
right
president
here.
right next door?
And this is next year's president. And
Now-
this lady's from Vermont. She's from Bridport, Vermont.
Is that right?
She will be the national president in, well, let's see, for two more years. So we will be having a national president's homecoming at the Sheraton in Burlington in a couple of years.
All right, now explain to me, you haven't had an election, who's going to be there next year and the year after? Are you telling me there's a regular chair?
It's a progression,
Ah.
yes. This is the guard right here. She's from West Virginia, Diana.
Okay.
And she and I served as state presidents together.
Okay.
So she's the bottom chair. And then this is Pat from Michigan, and Lorraine from North Dakota, and Connie from Arkansas, and Jane from Vermont. So you progress. When you start in the guard's chair, and then you progress to the top.
So you could very well be the national president
Well-
in a number of years.
Actually, no. That my chair is the one that does not progress.
Okay.
Mine is basically the secretary treasurer's position is equivalent to the CEO of a corporation.
Okay.
I'm there to establish policy, to do the investments, to make sure that the finances are properly handled, to enforce the bylaws. And so basically, I run the company, although it's not a company, it's an organization.
Okay, so are the other ladies there on a regular basis too?
No.
Oh, you're
I'm
it
the only
there.
one in Kansas City, yes.
Uh-huh.
They all live at home, and they travel, representing the auxiliary. They travel all over the country.
Should I be sitting this close to the CEO? Huh?
Well, I tell you, the package is a little bit different, but I'm still me.
I'll tell you, you certainly have. You've never changed that
No,
way.
no, I,
Peg, you're a down-to-earth person, and that's obviously what brought you where you are.
Well, I figure
Is there a
it
way?
stood me in good stead all these years. I'm not
Does
about
the
to change that.
secretary-treasurer ever become in the chairs that move up?
No.
Don't
I mean,
usually.
I could resign this position and run, but then I have to start at the bottom and work
Yes,
my
yes,
way up,
yeah.
and that really isn't my interest. I am basically an administrator, and I like detail, I like organization, and so I'm in the perfect position.
You're telling me that everything in your house at home is in perfect order and you know where everything is at all times?
Well, I didn't say that. But I do like my ducks in neat little rows.
You do. That's a good
Yeah.
way to do it. Okay. So I was telling you, I read this in the paper, and I said, gosh, what a great honor for not only for Peg and her mom and my son-in-law and everybody else, but I felt, not that I had any part of it, but I felt that, gosh, here's somebody from Champlain, New York, one of our neighbors there, and I'm very proud of that. So I dropped her a note and congratulated her, and I kind of put on the bottom, maybe when you're home sometime you could talk with Hometown Cable. And one day I saw her mom, and she said, "I see you're going to have Peg on hometown cable." I said, "Well, that was our." Did she say she was going to do it? Well, she said, "I think she would." So here we are. I found out she was home just the other night, and I said, called her, and sure enough, here we are on a Saturday, and we're very pleased you could do
Champlain
this.
is it's a small town, but I think it's kind of a representation of the country. You know, you have good, solid roots here. You have good, honest, friendly people, and look what's come out of this little post here.
Yes.
I mean, we've had district commanders, we've had council commanders, we've had state chairman for the VFW. We've had, on the auxiliary side, council presidents and district presidents. Linda Nichols was a district president as well. She was also council president. So, you know, there's been a lot of good, a lot of people that have come out of here that have done a big service for the VFW and for the Ladies Auxiliary.
Now, there's a picture that we picked up when we were downstairs, and you can maybe tell us about this.
Oh, I was very proud of
Tell
this.
us about this.
This was at the National Convention in Louisville, and this is our commander here at Champlain, Jeff Addison, and he won All-American honors at the National Convention, the only one in the state of New York. And there are like 110,000 members in this state. So Jeff is the only one, and I was real proud of him. So we had our picture done.
Yeah. We mentioned back when we were talking with him the reasons for membership increase and the other things, why they became and it's now known as an All-American Commander and the All-American Post, and it'll be that forever.
That's right.
Because they did that, and the only one in the state of New York. Now that's another big honor, you know. We got the only. Are you now director?
And Secretary Treasurer.
Secretary Treasurer, I shouldn't direct. We have the only one in the country, with the auxiliary right from Champlain. We also got the only All-America, and that's Mrs.
That's Mrs. Addison. Linda.
And if you remember, we also Sam was there when they videoed their son when he got his Eagle Scout award here in this same building about a year and a half ago. And he also was the person that took over and fixed up the water. I was going to say Weeks Cemetery on the Ridge Road, just between Champlain and Chazy. And this other lady, I guess, is how long ago was this?
This was in August at the National Convention.
Were
in
you
Louisville.
Secretary Treasurer then?
Well, that was the day before I was elected.
Okay. This is a general election that does that?
Yes, there were about 3,000 auxiliary members at the convention. And, of course, you have to go around and campaign and, you know, throw a little coffee clatch here and there. And it's just looks like a regular national campaign. All the signs, you know, here's New York delegation and Arkansas and all that. So it's pretty exciting.
I bet you, even as business lady you were excited and very proud. You were very proud.
Yeah,
huh?
well, I had a few butterflies in my stomach.
Oh, yeah, well,
too,
you're CEO then. You run the organization.
Yeah, well, pretty much. I'm responsible if anything goes wrong.
Yeah.
Which it's not going to, by the way.
How many do you have working for you down there?
I have 25.
So all of them are working?
Yes,
okay.
yes, they're all 25 in Kansas City. And that's the only staff we have, really.
Do you do much actual work as such, or do you delegate and travel quite a bit?
Well, I do travel a lot, and of course I delegate a lot, but I do a lot of actual work too. I'm one of those people who I like to do my own correspondence. So I kind of pound away on the computer.
You type your own letters?
I compose on the computer, and I just, you know, I don't do any formatting or anything like that, and it goes directly to my assistant. She picks it up, and she, you know, cleans up the format and puts the salutation and all that stuff in and makes the copies and gets it all ready for me to sign.
How long is your election for?
It's a one-year term.
One-year term?
Yes, but
okay.
I am pretty much expected to retire from there.
Is that right? Oh, in other words, the previous person retired, unless you really mess up somewhere.
Right, yeah. Well, let's hope that doesn't happen. But otherwise, I'll be there for about 15 years, and you know, if all goes well. So.
Now, you careful, you'll tell your age. Because you're going to retire at 55,
well, this year,
that's why.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that next year will be the 25th anniversary of my 25th birthday.
Okay. How we'll take a sharp break again and come back, and we'll just find out a little bit about general information you'd like to tell us about the auxiliary, and then this is going to be a short show, but we're very, very pleased, and I know you people out there won't see Peg to see her, or Margaret, whichever, or Peggy. You won't see her to congratulate her yourself, because this will be on after she goes back, but you could always send a note, I suppose, to the National VFW Auxiliary in Kansas City. You don't need much more address than that. I'm sure they would get to her, and you know this lady, a lot of you people out there know, and she's maybe done a lot of things for you. A note to say congratulations and thanks for the past would be in order, I think, and she didn't tell me to say that. I said that on my own.
Well, that's very nice.
We'll be right back. Now, Peg, as I remember, we don't have to prod you or ask you a lot of questions. I can just say, Peg, tell us about the auxiliary, and you can pretty well go on your own now.
Yeah.
So why don't you do that for us?
Well, you know, the VFW Auxiliary has been a very big part of my life, and I've always been very impressed with the work they do, and I'm very proud to be a part of that. And when I accepted this position in Kansas City, I did it with the knowledge and the hope that, you know, maybe I could do something to make things better. There's always room for improvement. So, one of the things that has always kind of bothered me is the misconception about what the VFW and the Ladies Auxiliary really do. A lot of people, when they hear VFW, they think of, I remember on Mel's Diner where Flo was always going to dance over at VFW, or Archie Bunker was going to the state convention, and those are kinds of things that really are not representative of what the VFW and the Auxiliary do. We do a lot of work in the community. Of course, our primary focus is to help veterans and their families, and that is what we do in our legislative program. We, write to our congressmen and our senators to get legislation passed that will affect the veterans, make sure that they have good health care, and that their pensions come to them in the way that they should. We also work on issues like, flag burning and Americanism issues. And we feel a very large responsibility to teach the young people of our country about our country, and let them know how lucky they are to be living here. But in addition to that, we have Ladies Auxiliary has a cancer aid and research program. We raise over $3 million every year for cancer research and for aid to our members.
Well, I got to interrupt here. How do you raise $3 million?
Well, we kind of have a quota system for our states. We have 758,891 members at present, and we ask the states and each of the local auxiliaries to donate $2 per member. Some auxiliaries will do that through their dues. They will collect the extra $2. Some will have fundraisers, and they do everything from having dances and tea parties and card parties and bake sales and whatever. But this money comes in every year. We give $25,000 fellowships, research fellowships, 3 of those a year. We donate $15,000 to St. Jude for research there, to the Jackson Laboratory in Maine, to Children's Mercy Hospital in Kansas City, all these different places that get $25,000, $15,000. We give $10,000 to the American Cancer Society every year for educational materials. So the cancer program is a very big part of, and our members. We take care of our own members too. If I were to be diagnosed with cancer, I can apply to the Ladies Auxiliary for a grant, and they will send me either $300, $400, or $500 based on the severity of my illness and so forth. And that is to be spent strictly on my care. Whether it might be tamoxifen, if I have to take that as a drug, and that's like, $5, $3 a pill or something, and you got to take it every day. Or maybe it might be a new wig. I might need a wig if I've lost all my hair or whatever, but something to do with my treatment or to help pay for my doctor bills.
Okay.
So that's a very important program of
Okay,
ours.
and there are other programs besides that. I interrupted you there,
Oh,
but that's a
yeah.
lot of money.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Last year, for example, as I told you, this year's special project is Operation Uplink. Already, since August, the members of the Ladies Auxiliary have sent in $61,000 for these cards, $25,000 of which went to Bosnia for Christmas Day, so that the soldiers could call their families for Christmas. And then the rest is going to be spent on these cards, which we'll be passing out.
Mm-hmm.
And when our national president went to Korea, she passed some out she had lunch with the troops on the DMZ there, and gave them some phone cards so they could call their families.
Oh,
And
that-
that's really important when you're that far from home,
Very
especially in a
much.
place like
Yes.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have that for this year's project. The last year was homeless veterans. And I think, if I remember correctly, there were like over 1 million hours of time donated working with homeless veterans at these stand downs. Are you familiar with a stand down is?
No.
Well, a stand down is it's kind of like in the military where they have a stand down where everything is grouped together and the soldiers do everything at one time. And at this type of stand down, they'll have VFW and auxiliary members. They'll have doctors from the community, dentists, barbers, whatever. And they bring these people in, bring the homeless in. The one in Massachusetts, I know they have a bus, and they publicize certain places that the bus stops and they pick people up, bring them to the stand down. They'll get a haircut, they'll get a shower, they'll get new clothes, they'll get, a winter coat, new socks, pants, shirts, whatever they need. They'll get their teeth checked, they'll get their blood pressure and their cholesterol checked. Make sure that, and then there'll be a representative from the VA there, and if they need medical attention, they get it.
Now, this is an auxiliary project, not a VFW project?
This is a joint project.
joint project,
VFW
okay.
and auxiliary
Yep.
work together on this, as we do on many of the
Okay.
projects. Voice of Democracy is another one. We give over $2 million a year in scholarships on a national basis for the Voice of Democracy, and that's kind of a speech rating contest. And then there are prizes on all the local levels. And then when they get the state winners, the 50 state winners, go to Washington, D.C. for a week, all expenses paid. They meet the president and they have dinner with the congressman and all that. And then that's where they announce the winner. And the winner will get a $20,000 scholarship.
I'll bet you people out there didn't know this, that you, like many others, have thought this is a social organization where you go to
Right.
have a good time, and that, they have a field day here in the summer, and they have their dances and their dinners, etc. And you figure it's another, but you can see that it goes way beyond that. It's
absolutely.
a national, and it hands down. And I'm very impressed, and all of you should, and the community very, very thankful to this lady. She mentioned 758, 6,000, whatever, down here. And it kind of goes up to the number of units you're up to. And up at the very top, the one who's coordinating this whole operation is sitting right next to me here this morning. And I don't know if I can sit here much longer next to this.
God,
But listen, I'm serious. I don't mean to be a jest in that. We're very proud. I know your mom is very, very proud of you, and so is your brother that I see regularly. And we all very, very proud. And
Well, the best I can do is say that I'm there to do a good job and to promise you all that I won't forget my roots.
no,
I remember where
I'm
it
sure
came
of that. We might mention, so again, while we're at it here, the past presidents, Margaret Peg Bergeron, and she was followed by her mother-in-law Blanche Bergeron, and Gloria Lopez, Doris Tremblay, Lillian Alger, Linda Nichols, Doris Tallman, Elizabeth Fisk, 86, 87, 87, 88, Doris Tallman again for 2 more years, Mary Biddard, 91, 92, 3 terms. Now, who is Mary Biddard?
Oh, that's my baby sister.
That's your baby sister, yes. Mary.
You get the whole group
There
involved
you go.
here.
Yeah, you can see that they learn. And remember, this work ethic comes from your parents, and if you know her mom, for instance, her mom is a very organized, quiet, reserved person, and I'm sure that the majority,
Yeah, she
all
taught
of
us a lot.
your dad too, but I'm sure that your mom was right there, and still has the full house. That,
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
and then, of course, she said, my sister became president. I can't let that happen. So she followed her sister up for 2 more terms in 93, 94, 95. And again, Elizabeth Fisk, Betty Fisk,
Who is the
for her
current
second time. And
president. Yeah.
she's the current president now. And does she get away to any of these meetings that you
Oh,
attend
yes.
outside the area?
Yes. And Betty was my driver. One of my drivers, Linda Nichols and Betty Fisk, were my drivers when I was the state president, because I had to work. So we'd be in Long Island, and we'd finish a meeting at 11 o'clock at night. I'd climb in the back seat with a pillow and a blanket, and those ladies would drive me home. And then I'd just get in the house, take a shower, go to work. So they, I got very, very close to them then.
Betty Fisk, I know, watches all the time, so you can tell her.
Hey, Betty, that's my other mother.
It is, huh?
Yes, she was wonderful to me, and we had a great time. And that's another benefit of the Ladies Auxiliary. The friendships you form will last forever. And it's a comfort to me to know that I can go into any state in the United States, and if I get in a jam, I know who I can call. I have a friend there. And even if I don't even know this person, I can call the VFW and I will get help.
Willard Martin mentioned that when he was here, that he stopped in, the car didn't start in Plattsburgh or something, on the call home, and they said, well, where are you from? What's your name? And they said, well, we can go take care of you. And they took care of you because there's that camaraderie.
Sure.
Peg, we really appreciate you taking this time on your vacation on this Saturday morning to come in and talk to us and the people out there and tell us a little bit about the auxiliary right from the headquarters, and continued success in your endeavor. This is a project, as you say, for at least you're thinking for 15 more years, and
Let's hope.
we wish you the very best of health and everything else.
Thank you.
And
I appreciate the opportunity to come in. I always have something to say about the Ladies Auxiliary.
You do, huh? And it's always good.
It's always good, yes.
Are they all as outgoing as you? Not quite, maybe.
Probably not quite, no. I don't think I need any assertiveness training courses.
No.
But there again, I was very, very quiet when I was in high school, and the Ladies Auxiliary has been such a benefit to me. What I learned in the auxiliary, I used in my business career, and what I learned in my business career, I used in my auxiliary career. So everything happens for a reason.
This is it right here, the Great Chazy River Memorial Post on the what's this called? Memorial?
It's the
VFW Memorial Highway. It runs right along the side of here. Post 1418, the VFW, Veterans of Foreign Wars, chartered in 1971, and something that many posts can't say, an all-American post.
That's right.
And we're sitting to our all-American lady on our right. I nearly called her girl. Oh, gosh, that's
Thank you.
You'd rather me call you girl.
I appreciate
We
that.
got to be careful. We got to be careful. Some people wouldn't like that. And our all-American lady, and we thank you again, and congratulations again from all of us in your selection. And it's nice to know that we know people in important places. So if you get to Kansas City, you can always call the VFW and say, Peg, I want to take you out to lunch. So you give Peg a call. And
Big VFW on top of the building. You can see it from
you can see it from all over, huh? In Kansas City. Kansas City also was the home of one of our great presidents, too.
Harry Truman.
Harry Truman, right. His home is there. I stopped there one morning on my way west, and remember the fence around. He was still living at the time. Remember, I didn't see him, but the fence all around it, and
oh, yeah.
Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri, right side by side, you said.
That's right, yes. One divided by one street, State Line Road.
Thanks, Peg. And thank you for watching Hometown Cable, everybody. We'll see you, I guess, next year, because this is the 28th. And unless I see you on New Year's Eve, we're going to see you next year. Thank you very much for all your contributions to Hometown Cable. I'm glad to see that Calvin has exceeded, and you people out there have done. They've done a great job. for our family. And cast iron. Peg's been very much in the news, and we want to talk with Peg a little bit about her family, her background, and then